In my opinion, Uro is probably the most underrated sorcerer currently. I feel as if she's the most downplayed sorcerer because of the unfortunate event that she was in the Sendai Colony. I mean, I made a whole video on the Sendai Colony breakdown, and I'm gonna tell you right now, I was wrong. I was wrong. Listen, I downplayed Uro myself, and the more I've reread, I think she's become the most underrated sorcerer, and I'll tell you why. We'll first start off with her ability. Her ability of sky manipulation isn't just nutty. I'm going to tell you here with chest that is the second strongest defensive ability that we've seen so far in the series, bar Limitless. We obviously know how great defensive capabilities Limitless is. Sky manipulation, in my opinion, is second to none in that regard. The ability to distort space, to be able to fly, to be able to not only send back attacks at people, she gives her the level of evasiveness I don't think anybody in the series can really say they can touch. I think a lot of time we really underscale Uro because for the most, and I'm saying 99% of Jujutsu sorcerers, how are they touching her? Like, let's keep this realistic. The ability she has and the way she can maneuver herself, I don't think many Jujutsu sorcerers have counters to her, one, and two, the ability to even get close to her. The reason why she was obviously in that deadlock was because Kurorushi is a hard counter to her ability, flesh insects and the insects being able to get close to her, especially when she's in the air. But now, I think another thing that also helps her in terms of the thing is that she's from the Heian era. She's from the strongest pinnacle in Jujutsu sorcerer, and she was an assassin. She wasn't your run-of-the-mill Jujutsu sorcerer. She was an assassin of the hardest era, and I believe her knowledge of Jujutsu sorcery is very good. Uro has the ability of a domain expansion. We unfortunately don't know what it is, however we can infer from innate techniques having something similar to their domain expansion, meaning it has something to do with her sky manipulation. It could show her ability will be something of insanity, and especially with her being from a toughest era, we can infer that she has a refined domain. Moreover, I think people have severely underrated her ability of Thin Ice Missile, and for some misconception like myself have assumed that she did no damage to Yuta. Nah, and this is where I'm now going to go into the Sendai Colony and begin to break it down again, because I did my first breakdown, and listen, that breakdown is wrong, I will tell you now. So first, I think the most important thing to understand is the reason why Ryu, Uru, and Kurorushi and Juve had no movement was because they were in a deadlock. The reason for this is because they each hard countered each other's abilities. This is why Yuta's interference is what changed it up. By him first killing Juve and then killing Kurorushi allowed Uru to take advantage of this situation, and then by doing so, she unloaded a lot of blows to Yuta. She was in the hand-to-hand combat, overpowering him. You can see how he's bleeding from the elbow that she takes to the face, and you can see how she can even change the shape of people's arm by distorting their space. This makes it harder for them to even deflect her punches. Moreover, she controls the sky as a surface. Like, Yuta found it extremely difficult to get close to her, and if it wasn't for her being jumped, she would have potentially, in my opinion, come out on top in this colony. We see the Granite Blaster that Ryu sends in the middle of their conflict between Uru and Yuta, and she used her ability not only to wipe it away but to completely dodge, so she now was in a good position where she could continuously get closer to them and use her abilities such as Thin Ice Missile to close the damage and have higher output. Now, this is where I think the biggest misconception comes. If you haven't seen Kyle Breeze's video on this, he does a great analysis of the Sendai Colony as well. As we see in the domain expansion thing, and I think this is where people have a misconception on Uru getting stopped by Yuta. First, the curse speech, even though it did damage, she got 2v1'd by Rika and Yuta. Not to mention, after getting 2v1, she was still okay. So after we see the Yuta send a Shikigami at her, she begins to use her ability again to show how she can easily defend some of these stuff. Even in the hand-to-hand combat with Rika, she was countering his blows. You can see for the fact that when they have their very brief conflict where they begin to talk about each other and their POVs, she was easily countering his punches, and if it wasn't for Ryu getting involved and then the freeway domain expansion, I believe Uru was still in a good situation to survive. Now, one thing that you can say is a way to blunder her. The collapse of the domain expansion, we see that Uru ends up getting jumped by Kurorushi's bugs, Yuta and Ryu all at once, and for some reason she gets the short end of the stick.
Fight back! Fight back! Fight back!
So in terms of feats, she may look like she's been underperforming compared to people such as Ryu. However, I disagree. She was the person who was using her cursed energy the most in the first early conflict, as well as, like I said in the fight, she was unfortunately in a situation where she was getting 2v1'd in legit every situation. So then when you get to the part where her cursed energy is obviously burnt out because she doesn't have the ability to use it after the domain expansion, Kurorushi takes advantage, and then after the kick from Yuta gets jumped by her bugs. This being the hard counter to her, she still, if you believe on whether the Viz translation or the TCB translation, she's implied to have a reverse curse technique, showing another indication to why she's become underrated and a strong combatant. I think the Sendai Colony has done things, and when you get to the obviously conclusion that Granite Blaster from Ryu, which obviously ends her, one, she doesn't even die from it. So this shows that her durability has become so underrated because we speak volumes with Ryu taking so many punches. Let's not forget how much damage Uro took this battle. She was jumped by Yuta and Rika, she got hit with Shigekamis, got hit by Kurorushi's bugs, got hit again by Yuta, got hit by Yuta some more, and got hit by some Granite Blaster to finish her off, which still didn't kill her. I think at this moment in time, if you're downplaying Uro, I think we're reading a different manga, man, because I think she has potential to be stronger with Ryu the more we see feats of her in the series. I only edge Ryu because right now the feats he's shown have been more than that. I think Uro and her ability of sky manipulation, in my opinion, is one of the strongest curse techniques that we've seen. But thank you guys for watching, and obviously what do you guys think? Do you think Uro's underrated? Stay tuned for the Mahito video. Thank you guys for everyone who's voted on the poll.